Hey Alex, I'm Lachlan. I'm a 19-year-old hack clubber from Pennsylvania. Um, so I've been thinking about like we're all pretty familiar with facial recognition in cities, and the kind of loss of our facial and identity privacy in public with people having phones taking videos and photos all day. But there's also like planes and satellites increasingly with increasing resolution and specificity that are invisible from the ground that can spy on people, and that can be both private companies and governments, but also other governments, and there's no consent there. Do you think like should the U.S. government be doing something? Should like the UN step in or some international body? Like how do we think about like international law versus private companies with like consent of satellite surveillance?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean,
We
satellites
have three
themselves,
minutes left.
yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah. So all internet and information governance and the law of space in 2.5 minutes. There's a bunch of that stuff that's outside. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a law professor. I just play one on TV. So there's a bunch of things there. I think you're right. It's really scary. Satellites themselves, I'm not as worried about, although there's a lot of them. There's like these petapixel drones, right, where they have like a humongous cryogenically cooled CCD that takes a photo of an entire city. I don't know if you've seen these demos, and then they can zoom into like one person's face and then zoom out, and it's all electronic, right? So like you don't have to have any physical zoom, and so they can capture petabytes and petabytes of imagery and then figure it out later. I expect that we're going to find that with all the protests going on right now, there's a bunch of this stuff is being tested out and will be used in creepy ways. I mean, I think in the United States itself, we need to have federal laws around the control of this. First, you start with the use by law enforcement, because that, again, we give the government a monopoly on violence and the ability to take people's freedoms away. And so in return, we can put restrictions on their capability to use data, right? And so I think you start first with the use by law enforcement, and then we can work on private use. We have to be real careful here, because in the United States, we allow people to take photos in public. The fact that you are allowed to videotape somebody doing something while they're on the street is the reason why we know of any of these horrible things that we know about that have caused the riots of Black Lives Matter, right? And so we got to be really careful when protecting our privacy that we also don't create rights of privacy that apply to, say, police officers who are doing the business of the public in the public, that they then can use to suppress that kind of stuff. And so it's actually a really complicated area for which I am not qualified to have more than a shallow opinion.